Do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a proven roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. We walk you through the exact same process that we use to run franchise marketing campaigns for our clients at scale that has resulted in triple-digit growth. This blueprint isn't for anyone. It's not for people just starting a franchise. It's not for franchises without long-term goals. This is for franchises that want to scale up their marketing in a predictable and profitable way using a proven roadmap. If you want to sell more franchises, keep your current franchisees happy, and learn from people who have already done it, go to franchisegrowthblueprint.com and sign up today. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. Today, I have Matt Hunt. He is the CEO and founder of Hard Exercise Works. Matt, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Great. So for those who haven't heard of HEW, could you introduce the brand and what you guys are all about?
Sure. We do high intensity interval training. I guess you could say similar to CrossFit. Our differentiation is that we primarily target women who are age 25 to 50. And we kind of sell our opening intro as a boot camp, and then they come in and realize they're kind of doing CrossFit. We focus on strength and barbells and rope climbs, the typical high intensity stuff. But our facilities are all about 5,000 square feet. We fit about 40 per class, and we run 10 classes a day. So we have 17 locations currently. We do substantially in terms of revenue for our model in its fitness space. And that's about it in a nutshell.
Very cool. Very cool. So how did you get started?
Well, I have been in fitness since I was 24. When we were first crafting our business model in Decatur, Georgia, we had the highest revenue center per square foot, building it upon this concept in the early 90s when nobody was really doing it. And so that's kind of how we started. We had the business really started with 6 different areas where you would do gymnastic work, kettlebell work, barbell work, and you would shuttle between what we called pods at the time. And then we realized that it was kind of crazy to do it that way. If we just opened up the whole 6,000 square feet, which we had, and just crafted really solid workouts based on a varied concept, and kind of surprised everybody every day. We knew that they would get in the best shape. And it stemmed from guys that I wrestled with in college and then actually became Navy SEALs. So my association with them was, how can we get some of the Special Forces guys in shape all the time? And it was just really random workouts for time or for rounds or however the workouts were crafted. So that's really where it all originated from.
Very cool. So how did you go from Navy SEALs to women between ages 25 and 50?
Well, ironically, in those days, you didn't have the internet, so we used to advertise in a local paper, and the majority of respondents, and this is what we found true across the board, guys are more apprehensive at aggressive style workouts. Women tend to gravitate towards them. The difference is a guy will come in and overdo what he thinks he can do, whereas a female will come in and underestimate what she can do. But I think women at that time really wanted to get, really like the aspects of trying to understand how to get up on top of a rings in a muscle up, or maybe do a rope climb. And most women would always state, I can't even do a pull-up. And they were amazed once we taught them kipping pull-ups or how to jump on a box. So I think they had a fonder curiosity than most men, and they took action on it. So we just realized that was a strong market in which we needed to target.
Very cool. I love it. Like, sounds like you're really pushing people to limits that they don't quite recognize, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
So how did you gravitate towards the franchise model?
It really, we fell into it by happenstance. We opened up a second location with another couple that were members at our flagship store. They really wanted to open one up in the Stuart, Florida area, which is about 20 miles north of where we're located in Jupiter, Florida. And so we did a joint venture with them. And then as we realized we got a year and a half down the road in it, we thought it might make more sense to, instead of doing a joint venture, which opened up the door for a lot of liability, that it might make sense to pursue franchising. So that, on the advice of, believe it or not, Ray Titus and the United Franchise Group, which is in West Palm Beach, we had some access to Walter Seltzer, who has been an instrumental guy in helping us develop through the franchise space. So they consulted with us. We would pay them a consulting fee, and they kind of walked us through the process and did a really bang up job. So kudos out to Ray Titus and Walter Seltzer and the United Franchise Group, because they were largely instrumental in making us do it. Had I known that it was going to be as difficult as it was, I probably would have never done it, but ignorance is bliss, so to speak.
Yeah. They're a great group of guys.
Yeah.
So, what has been some of your biggest learnings going from that first franchise all the way up to 17
now? I think getting your documentation done properly. We have been sued 3 times, settled 2 of them, and one kind of just went away. And it's amazing because all of our locations were opened by former clients. We have done very little external advertising, but I think people, at least our customers, thought because we made the gym look so easy that when they got into the actual franchise process, they realized they had to work extremely hard. And it's different from being a customer and seeing a snippet of what we do 1 hour a day versus being in the business and working 10-hour days when you're first opening, because it just takes a lot of energy. So I would say make sure you get your documentation done right, because there were loopholes in the documentation which allowed them to take advantage of it. And not good or bad at the end of the day, it's our fault. We were the ones who brought them in. We were the ones that signed off on the agreement. But I would say just make sure you have a really solid franchise agreement. Yeah, so we had some loose documentation that we should have done a better job on. Hence, that was our first foray into meeting the United Franchise Group guys. They helped us tighten it up. But because that loose documentation allowed the owners to move forward with a suit against us. And again, it was our fault. We were the ones that didn't do our paperwork properly. I don't blame the franchise owners. At the end of the day, we have to take full responsibility for bringing people into the fold, but they really weren't franchise owners that we should have scrutinized thoroughly. And so have good paperwork and really make sure that you award the right people with a franchise. Don't just take people in because you need the cash.
So that's a very common theme I've been hearing is that culture fit and putting people really under that microscope. So tell me more about how you are doing that in your system.
I'll give you a prime example. We have 2 former franchise owners that were our number 1 revenue center in Wellington, Florida. They sold it to another set of owners that do a phenomenal job. But Blake and Talia have been out of the system for 4.5 years. They've since opened 2 other franchise concepts, sold them both, and came back to us about 6 months ago and said it was the best experience of their life. They want to reopen it again. Now they have 2 children. It's substantially different. And of course, our model has expanded and become much better. We have a better interior package, a whole new branded look and theme. But I think that just shows that we're doing something right. On top of it, they get the system and they have a really solid business acumen. So that's the type of individual that we would be looking for. Somebody that really not only passionate about fitness overall, but has some sort of business background and understands that nothing in this world is easy, especially franchising.
For sure. So it sounds like you're taking a very deliberate and organic approach to growing. You mentioned before that I believe all of your franchisees are former customers. So how have you been able to shift these people from customers into franchisees and absolute lovers of your brand?
Okay, great question. So we didn't have a plan before. Every single person came to us and said, hey, I really like this. I want to move forward. In that process, what we realized is we need to create a 2-hour in-center promotional franchise marketing plan, whereby we go to, let's say, our Deerfield location. We advertise for a month through our membership base and on Facebook saying, this is the type of qualified owner we want. Here's what you're going to experience at our 2-hour dog and pony show. This is what the franchise is all about. And if you have a net worth of $200,000 and you really want your own business and you want to change lives in your neighborhood, then come to this seminar and we will tell you all about what we plan to do. Our next stage of growth primarily is going to be in the Fort Lauderdale and Miami area. So that's our game plan. We haven't worked it yet, but we're close to making it happen.
Very cool. So because you're doing your recruitment from within your customer base, how have you been tackling territorial division amongst new locations opening up?
Well, in the beginning, we didn't have a plan. We just basically were trying to space them out about 5 miles apart from one another. Since then, we've signed on with a company called Locate AI, which uses the Esri data, which is the cell phone data on customers. We have over 40,000 people in our database, so they've taken all that information and essentially, to dumb it down, have aggregated 5 groups of customers that fall into our spectrum, and they are going into new territories, showing us where the model would work well, in particular for specific areas. So that's kind of how we're moving forward, and it can kind of show a projected amount for a location. If we pinpoint something in downtown Fort Lauderdale, it'll say, oh, this store has a projected rate of $679,000. So, and so far it's worked. We've done it with one location. It's proven pretty accurate.
That's amazing. I love the data-driven approach that you're taking.
Yeah.
So, you're using these in-center information sessions for growth. What other levers are you pulling right now to grow both on the franchise development side and on the consumer side as well?
So on the franchise side, really, it's just basically making sure that we have our marketing 2-hour seminar set up properly. Again, yet to be tested, but hopefully in the next 60 days it will. COVID threw everything off, as you well know. On the customer side, we are constantly trying to test our promotions that we run on Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads, monitor and measure those things to see the effectiveness of the ads, what ads work, what promotions work. Nicholas Kukla, our Chief Marketing Officer, is constantly updating our marketing plan. So each gym across the board has a plan per month that we try to work. But we're big on the neighborhood community, so we ask the owners to do at least 1 to 2 tent events per month in their neighborhood, give away tons of free month memberships at schools, at bowling alleys, you name it, anything that goes on in the community. Like here in Tequesta, every year we have an annual firefighter to raise money for the firefighters. They do a huge chili cook-off. So we're always the main sponsor at that event. We just believe in giving a lot away to the community, because I think once people experience or have a slice of our pie, they want to buy the whole pie. So we believe in giving it away for good causes primarily. That's the short answer to your question.
I love the double whammy there, just like giving back, and you have the bonus of growing as well. So, you mentioned that you're relying on Facebook, Instagram, Google, and in the earlier part of our conversation, you talked about doing newspaper ads. So I'd love to hear how you've seen the internet change over the years as a growth mechanism.
Yeah, so comparatively speaking, let's just compare our business to CrossFit, and I will give Greg Glassman a ton of kudos here. We kind of started at the same time. and Glassman took the approach that he didn't want to go in the franchise business. He wanted to sell online certifications in the early 2000s. And to see how well CrossFit has done, growing to, I think, probably a net worth of around $100 million. So you can see, even though they took a completely different approach, overall, the internet is just a blessing. It's if you come from the older days, I'm 59, so when you come from the days of having to advertise in the yellow pages and in newspapers, to see how cost efficient the internet is in getting leads. So I'll point out a specific example. In the old days, you'd run an ad in a paper. To get the amount of leads that you wanted, it cost you about $150 per lead in the 90s to get a solid long-term customer. For $150 on Facebook, with the right offer, you can generate 10 sales immediately. So it's just incredible what the internet has done for instant communication with a potential customer.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I was talking to another franchise the other day, and we were discussing attribution as well, right? Like being able to understand which ad specifically to which audience is generating not just money on the upfront, but money on the long term, right? Like what is that long term value of that customer as well?
Right. It's amazing.
Cool. So if you could go back, what would you have done differently?
Probably been less impetuous and really taken solid advice from a lot of the experienced people within the industry. Having said that, there's also, I think the industry overall is substantially stodgy and somewhat outdated in their approach to selling franchises. Don't misunderstand me. I know Orange Theory has grown phenomenally by using a lot of different types of methods, but I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see a substantial change in how people sell over the internet. I like what Great American Expo is doing by creating a virtual space online and getting rid of having to go to a show to, put up a booth to house your specific wares and do your dog and pony show there at a franchise, thing over a weekend. I think the internet and the virtual concept of it is going to work far more efficiently and lower costs substantially in the future for individuals to sell franchises.
Very cool. So you mentioned before you wish you took people's advice earlier on. What are some of the biggest gold nuggets when it comes to advice that you've received?
We'll get right back to the show, but do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. To find out more, visit franchisegrowthblueprint.com. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Now back to today's episode.
Having your paperwork in order, honestly. We flew by the seat of our pants, and I know I can't stress that enough, but paperwork doesn't always cover you from being sued. But what a good franchise agreement will do is make the other party second guess whether they should enter into a long-term agreement. And it's really like choosing the correct spouse. It's probably better to get all the dirty laundry on the table and be upfront and go, hey, this business looks like it's fun, but it's really 10 to 12 hour days for the first year. Do the math, stop and think, walk yourself through it 3 months after you've had no sleep and you're going home and you got to wake back up in 4 hours and come back into the business. It's, I think being brutally honest with people, telling them what their lives will look like and chronicling that in a well-written infographic explanation is what we've learned is far more beneficial. So I think probably just taking the advice of experts in the industry and saying, look, be brutally honest with people. Don't take money over, we took a few people because they had money. We needed money to grow. We were self-funding it, and those were the wrong mistakes. So I've learned that in the end, if you do the job right, money follows. It's not about money at all.
I like it. I like it a lot. So we've been talking about all of your learnings so far. I'd like to chat a bit about like kind of what the future holds. So, we're talking a lot about the internet. How else do you see HEW growing? And what challenges are you facing right now, and what does that look like?
Let's see. One of the biggest challenges that we thought would potentially change the business was after COVID-19, we realized there's a virtual market out there. So how do you entice a lead to come in and try the virtual workout at home? And then how do you get that lead to either want to come into the gym to try the real thing, or does the lead stay at home and join on a virtual platform, so to speak, for a temporary period of time? At the end of the day, we realized some of our competitors will offer virtual workout, and that's a good thing. It's good for lead generation. But at the end of the day, we are a bricks and mortar location. People want the real experience. It's different to do it in your garage or your driveway than it is to be in a class of 35 or 40 people. And you're like, wow, this is exciting. Nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. So, but having said that, we probably would not have learned that the virtual lead generation part of the system is going to be a realistic and substantial way moving forward. So that's one. I think what we learned in this from a franchisor perspective, we always felt we were falling short on visiting our locations and hearing what they're really going through. But COVID forced us into a daily meeting with them every day at 2 p.m. for 45 minutes with 17 owners all on a call, really being extremely transparent about what their lives were like, what it's like to be in the gym business. And we realized we gained so much more from that as we're getting back into full swing, we're making it a mandatory once a week thing where we can see them all the time. And the reality is it cuts down on the visits because we can foresee the problems now rather than having to travel to one in California, one in Asheville, North Carolina. It kind of condenses, keeps our costs lower, but we understand where the problems exist now because COVID forced us into that. So we learned a lot from that. It was a blessing.
That's great to hear. I mean, the learnings from it have been game changing.
Yeah, and we really bonded with the owners a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So Matt, we are coming near the end of the episode. I like to end it with something I call the lightning round. It's fast paced, some quick questions, very light and easy. So are you ready for them?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. First question: what is your favorite tool or app that you can't live without?
Okay, I'm going to answer it in two questions. The first one is I'm learning about a company named Eulerity. I really like what they've sent us. I don't know enough about it, but it is extremely compelling what they do. They kind of aggregate all your Facebook, Instagram ads all into an app, and you just can see real time where the money's being spent, what ads working, what ads not. So I have to say, that would be my answer. The more I learn about that app, the more I will find out how cool it is. The second thing is I'm fascinated by ZipWhip. We use it in all our locations. Great tool.
Very cool. So second question, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book is a book written by John Crowder called Money, Sex, Beer, and God. Probably the best book on learning about scripture and all the stuff you're not supposed to do. Kind of interesting. Pretty cool book. Look it up.
I'll have to buy a copy. So third question, who is the franchise leader that you look up to most?
Wow, good question. Off the top of my head, I'd say it's Walter Seltzer has been largely instrumental in helping us from United Franchise Group. He will not steer you wrong. He offers solid advice. But I have a counterpart to that. Jeff Sturgis, we hired as a fractional CEO, and Jeff has steered us in the right direction and is a phenomenal wealth of knowledge. Just really kept us out of a lot of trouble and on the right path.
Awesome. And last question, Matt, where can people find out more about you and your company?
Go to hardexerciseworks.com check it out, join a center, love it, and then buy a franchise. That's how it works.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate
you, Jordan. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. If you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and subscribe now so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And until then, happy marketing.